about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business. And I have chosen you to preach this evangel.
For all my free market healthcare robbing, stock stealing, retirement fund fucking with niggas. Fuck you little credit card scamming, jewelry stealing, crack selling, liquor store robbing motherfuckers. Shout to the homies, Carnegie, OG, Willie Randolph Hearst, Baruch, Rockefeller, the real Rockefeller, my main bitch Leona, pour out a little Louis the 13th. Scott Rothstein, Jack Abramoff, hold your head. My Rothschild niggas, let's get this money. I spend my day peppering America overseas. Pension for the workers, nigga, please. Embezzlement, etiquette, private settlement. I'm better with Confederate rhetoric from my mansion in Connecticut. Foreclose a big holes out the tenement. I twist words like a speech impediment. I hope you got good credit, bitch. If not, better get a new job with benefits. While I play golf with niggas and get cheddar with. New money buys brand new carrots. My old money bunch of great grandparents. You got grills in your mouth, I ain't mad at ya. I own every gold mine in South Africa. Thanks, baby, you made me $1 billion. Plus, I own a building for each one of my children's children.
Hey, everybody, we are live. This is Voice of Rebellion Radio at UCY Radio. This is your host, Chris J, tonight, and we have a good show in store for you tonight. We are talking about the difference as we reach July 4th, and over here on the East Coast, we're just 3 hours from July 4th, and 6 hours away on the West Coast, and a few more hours away in Hawaii, Alaska, and so tomorrow will be 240 years of United States existence, but I want to make a big differentiation on the show between the Patriots and these thinly veiled fascists that have been pushing this idea of ultranationalism, patriotism, but it's really not nationalism when you think about it. And all this is doing is keeping America owned by a lot of these people, foreign bankers, foreign interest, and ultimately it's a disguise, the nationalism. It really is. It's just a wing of globalism that these neocon, the neoconservative groups like the Kagans, who I believe some people say that, I know that they definitely have their roots in Eastern Europe. They're very non-American, and they have a lot of roots back to Israel, of course. And these people that claim that American patriotism and support of Zionism are one and one, but what the reality is that Zionism has killed Americans, like in the USS Liberty, in the Lavon affair, in Egypt. They have no interest in the American people, and neither does our government. And this idea that supporting our government equals patriotism, but what supporting our government does, and what this government represents, is everything that the Founding Fathers fought against for the most part. There are some stuff that the Founding Fathers might have agreed with. The Founding Fathers weren't perfect, but many of the values that these people are in the government today, the Founding Fathers would absolutely abhor and condemn if they were able to today. This is, in many ways, has a lot of the characteristics of the King George government of Britain, which the Founding Fathers fought against. But when you think about it, the Founding Fathers initiated a war with Britain and fought for the independence of the United States over a 3% tax. When you have a 3% tax, it's a minute tax today compared to some of the taxes that are levied on certain items, on certain things, and certain different certain property and many other things that are being taxed today. Look at your sales tax in some of these states where you count all the taxes up together. You have like what, 20, almost. I hear is almost a 20% sales tax up there in New York State. In New York City, I know they have these absolute crazy taxes. Here in Florida, where I live, it's only 7%. But then again, like I said, it was a 3% tax on tea, which is not even an essential item really. They fought the revolution over. It wasn't simply that, but it was a major factor. It was a high price. It was the high taxes that were being put on a few items, or what was deemed at the time a high tax. We would same as actually as a low tax today, and we just seem to continue to ignore that. Also, on the flip side of people, regular people being taxed heavy, poor middle class being taxed heavy, and the purchases that they make when they go, especially for example, when you think of it, a lot of stuff that seems that poor people and middle class people tend to buy seems to be stuff that's taxed, and then you see the stuff that rich people buy at times, or a lot of times rich people are buying, and it's not really taxed accordingly. And in fact, it seems that when we talk about the ultra elite class that runs this country, not only do they not pay taxes, they get our money back, because the tax system is just to funnel the money back up the ladder, or it shouldn't be said back up the ladder. It should be said up the ladder. It's a complete jacking from us. Because who makes the production that these ultra elite at the top, who makes it possible for their goods or their services to be actually provided in order for them to get the money? Well, it's the poor middle class. They ultimately are taking the original wealth from them when they're at the bottom, making their wealth possible, and taking the most of the fruits of their labor. It goes up to them, and they redistribute a little bit back to you in a financial compensation. It's not nearly as much as what they're gaining. Then later, the same ultra elite class, oftentimes that these people are working for, also have connections back to the Federal Reserve and are one of the companies that be the Federal Reserve IRS conglomerate. They receive their money back via corporate welfare and many other different loopholes that make it able for them to pay negative taxes. And they get a giant return, like Boeing and several other HP and a few other companies I can think of have had recent events like this where they've gotten back billions of dollars. So, and how do they get those billions of dollars? The same people that they just gave the little financial compensation for the goods that they received from them, and the same people that made their wealth possible, they're going to tax them and take back their money. So, and ultimately, these companies pay nothing practically and receive everything. And it's a completely rigged system. And you have these few corporations that are in control of this country. And you really look at it, it's not, you see all the variety on the streets, but you realize that if you look a little bit deeper, that's just the surface. And that 150 companies will be owned by one parent company. And that parent company is controlled by one guy, and he has connections back to the government somehow, or he might even have held a government position before. You ultimately see, like, for example, our media. Sure, there are almost 15,000 different media providers inside the United States of America, but you look, only 6 companies actually run all of it. 6 parent companies. And they put all this stuff to, it's like, for example, when you go to the store and you think you have this variety, people that are gullible to an extent, I guess. I don't even think you have to be really that gullible. Don't realize that, for example, Dr. Pepper, Mountain Dew, and all those drinks you see up there, I think a lot of people assume those are different companies, but it's all owned by PepsiCo. And PepsiCo owns a ton of other stuff that you think is different companies. And there's Coca-Cola Company. And both of them give money to the Zionists to go murder Palestinian children. So you have 2 giant beverage providers that are both in bed with the Zionists. And that's how it is. It goes with the food. All our food, practically, that we consume in this country, that most Americans eat, there's very few exceptions to this, is owned by 12 companies providing all the food in the United States. And you believe me, they all got connections back to the giant DuPont Monsanto monstrosity, which with their GMOs, their plan, and they made it pretty overtly, the people at the top of this company that's been for 100 years slowly working towards this goal, control of the food supply of not just the United States, but the entire world at some point. And Monsanto is a major New World Order company, which is planning and is working on the New World Order initiative in order to control the world's food supply for the elite, so they can control the distribution of food around the world. And again, it goes back to when it comes to food and how it's made, just like a lot of this other stuff, or how food is brought to the market. That is purely so that the farmers make it possible and actually grow the damn food. But the company is going to get all those, sometimes the little fruits of their labor, and sell it, get all the tons of money, pay them a lot of times peanuts. I mean, this is something you take 725. So let's see what some of these fruit and plant farmers out west get paid. Then, I guess in the case of the illegal immigrant, that corporations, that's the misconception, is that illegal immigration is not pushed. Really, it's actually our illegal immigration is pushed on by major corporations to the government to bring in cheap labor. Simply, they don't have to pay them $7.25. There's no federal restrictions, anything. You can pay them $1. A lot of times they pay them just a few dollars. Okay, and even the legal farmer that's only get paid $8 or whatever, they're going to pay taxes, a lot of stuff, and that same money is going to go right back to that food distributor via the middleman, the IRS. The IRS is redistributing your wealth, or redistributing your wealth to the super rich. And the IRS works for a private bank called the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve, who the hell are they? They're not Americans. And the people that control your money, which right now in the modern day American culture, what's more symbolic of the modern day American dollar or American culture than the dollar itself? And it seems to have this money-driven society where everybody's eyes is on money. As we get harder and harder to scrape by a lot of the people, now we have 50% of this country in poverty. So your dollar is not even printed by anybody connected to the American government. These are the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve prints out your dollars, and they charge the U.S. government debt for printing out these dollars, and then they defer that debt to the American people via the IRS, and they use our tax dollars to pay these guys. But the thing is, the Federal Reserve has no intentions to ever get paid back in full. They never want to actually have no one owe them. They want to be continually owed because it's a perpetual debt, so they're going to have ownership of this country. And now, over the last 102 years, they've been 100%, 103 years, 100% successful at their plan. And controlling the currency is one of the biggest steps that the New World Order has done. It's the biggest step. When you control the currency, you control the country. You control the food, you control the oil. You see all these major things, and you look at the United States today, and all this stuff is fucking controlled by New World Order insiders in the New World Order. And the Federal Reserve, who owns the Federal Reserve? 10 giant banking families, and one of them is the Rothschilds, which are arguably the most powerful family out of all these people in the New World Order. That is practically those people that run the banks are the fucking New World Order. And people will like to defer the blame of why this country's that way, but it's simply because at this point, we don't own our country. The American people have no ownership of the country that our founding fathers fought for. Now it belongs to, we fought so hard 240 years ago to become free of the Rothschilds, Britain military wing, that at that time they were us. And when I mean us, the United States, they were controlled and they were using their men to fight and die in wars for the New World Order. Now our men get pushed out there for the Rothschilds, the Warburgs, all these fucking giant banking families. That's who the United States military is serving. And now the United States has taken Britain's place. What we are seeing with Brexit over there in Britain is we're seeing that any little shadow of the British Empire at this point is falling apart. And it was falling apart a while ago. And that's why the Rothschilds decided that they would take the United States. They stopped paying attention, and then they looked to the United States to become that new military wing. And they control our military men. They control our education system at this point. What you see, this education system, whitewashing, leave it out. Big parts of very vital information is gone. It's not being shown the truth about the New World Order. And they don't even know the New World Order is a complete conspiracy theory to this new generation. And I think that the older generations had more knowledge about the New World Order than this new generation does, who wants to defer everything. They believe it just to be mindless conspiracy talk, or that they are, at this point, the new hip thing seems to be called, it's to be a pretend psychologist for a second and say that we're just paranoid or whatnot. But we are just stating, we're just not fucking naive. We're just stating what is on facts, paper, the Balfour Declaration. That's all. They leave a paper trail. They have told us. They have said in their memoirs, David Rockefeller telling exactly what he is responsible for. He said at the end, guilty as charged, when referring to his nefarious plans. And there's no shorter word of what these are. These are absolutely nefarious plans that they have planned. In the United States, a lot of the people sitting there watching their television, and they're screaming America. But at the same time, support what the United States military is doing overseas and pushing the New World Order on Syria and next Iran, and pushing the New World Order on Afghanistan and Iraq, and next possibly Venezuela, and next North Korea. They are screaming America. They are buying the GMO garbage. They are doing everything that they want them to do. But they don't see that they are just at this point pawns, and that they are at this point just practically we're becoming labor units. And this are at the same time shunning everyone that talks out about what this government's responsible for as commies, or they say we're terrorists, and at the same time they say Islamophobic stuff, and they fall right into the hatred towards Muslim line that's been pushed. And that's why I don't give any credit to Alex Jones, of Paul Joseph Watson, of InfoWars, because they push the same media narrative that Muslims are to be hated, and Muslims are behind culturally, is what these people say on the media, and hint at that the Muslims are, pretty much at times they try to defer it, that they are the source of America's problems, not the bankers, not our government, not the true sources of the suffering that has started inside the United States, and what the suffering that the United States has pushed on. And I want to talk about the United States U.S. government. It's pushed on the third world, and we, as the awakened Americans who actually know what's going on and are conscious to this very elaborate conspiracy, very elaborate plot, this hijacking of the American name by corporations of a few neoconservative, neocon bastards who are using this. They're using all this stuff that was all this Americana, all this patriotism to their advantage, and at the same time, this country is getting sold off internationally. We have Israel controlling tons of our politicians. We have European bankers, Zionist bankers controlling this country. We have our jobs going overseas to these bankers' buddies. us Americans, the American people are being screwed, and they're cheering on the people that are screwing them. And it's not the poor Mexican family looking for a better way of life here in the United States. It's not the Muslims coming over here because they've been bombed out of their countries by the United States military. It's not it's not anybody normal's fault. It's these scum of bankers that are at the top that control this country. And when people finally break through the illusion of this false patriotism and the people that are pushing this false patriotism, if you support our men dying in war for the bankers, you're not a patriot. You're a traitor. If you support the bankers controlling our American businesses and buying out everything and the ways of fair business, the ways of how of enterprise before, because this is a rigged enterprise where the government and the bankers at the top control, and a few corporations to control the entire economy, and they smash all their competition and make monopolies. If you support all that, you're a traitor, because our founding fathers stood for, and I have my disagreements with it, as most people will know that listen to me, but in their theory is very great, of the idea of every small business, every man trying to, and everybody, just the government staying out of all business affairs, and everybody, and having a fair marketplace where people compete, prices are lowered by many people competing inside this marketplace, driving prices lower, making it more affordable, and making it ultimately a better way of life for everyone. In theory, these are what the founding fathers believes. Most of them, actually. There was one that was actually a little bit more left-wing than the rest of them. That seems to be ignored in our history books again. We're talking about stuff that's been ignored from our history books, and they might bring up his one piece of literature that's pretty famous, but they won't talk about his political leanings. And the person that I'm talking about, I'll bring up his name a little bit later. But the moral of the story here is that we are not what Americans are cheering on for on July 4th, and how a lot of these people that believe themselves to be hardcore patriots that support men like Donald Trump, or even on the flip side, some of Hillary Clinton. If you support either of these men and you support the electoral system how it is, you are not a patriot. A lot of these people have fallen into the false illusion of what patriotism of today means. And they believe that our country to be under threat from these boogeymen that have been created by the government. These boogeymen mean the Islamic terrorists that they believe are lurking at every intersection. The truth is that our government created the Islamic terrorists. And what truly, at this point, Americans are afraid of is Muslims. But what we should be more afraid of at this point, we're going to talk about a Middle Eastern threat to this country, a Middle Eastern threat to our way of life, that don't believe in our values, don't believe in what this country is founded on. They don't believe in that these people, that many of us deserve to be alive. They believe a lot of these people are very hardcore in their way of pseudo-religious fundamentalism. I think some people will know who I'm starting to talk about here. These people believe that their race is superior to everyone else, and that only them, some of them believe, are humans, while the rest of us are subhuman servants, is how they see us. These men are in a land that doesn't belong to them, and claim a country that they just arrived at 70 years ago, but act like they have a long, long history of being there. The men that they pretend to be are actually the ones that they invaded and have pushed them out, and to call them even second-class or third-class citizens, there'd be a high exaggeration of these guys' standard of life that they have imposed on them. The threats that I'm mentioning, they occupy, they subvert, and then they spin the truth. When you criticize them, they call you the racist. Now, how do these men that I've described that are sound to be the equivalent of probably Nazis, is the only thing that could be really compared to, how do they call you a racist in the end? They, via different groups of lobby in this country, different groups that are considered very vital to a journalist, to an activist, whether you will be ostracized, whether you will be alienated, whether you will be left out by your activist community, is these men control these organizations. They have the biggest lobbying group in a foreign country that has 50 times their population. They have a military that kills children on a regular basis and uses chemical weapons against these people that they invaded, but yet claim to be. And how is this possible? And then every time that anybody else opposes them in their region, they say they use the chemical weapons, but they're using chemical weapons. So how could they even criticize them for that? And then usually it's a lie. They scare people that their enemy is making nuclear weapons and that they should protect these pricks, that they are them. But they built illegal nuclear weapons. And when the United States president tried to stop them in 1962 and 1963, there's a lot of talk that they killed them. They commit assassinations on planets countries thousands of miles away from their own. They killed the man, as many allege, that really had a chance at taking back his country from the invaders, and said that he died of natural causes. These people, a lot of them are just bystanders and don't have much of a fault in the whole situation. But there's a few men at the top, a small select part of the government of this country that I'm mentioning in the Middle East. And it's an actual country. It's a very small country. It used to be somebody else's country, and it still is their country, and they're occupying it. But they don't call it an occupation. No. And if you say it's an occupation, if you say that they don't allow the people that they invaded on their buses and make them go on different roads, but you are not allowed to call it apartheid. And if you call it an occupation or apartheid, they call you the racist. This country is Israel. This country was formed in 1948 and now controls a lot of the United States politics. It controls a lot of our media. The CIA even made Operation Mockingbird to flip a lot of the rhetoric towards Israel. Israel is a major threat to the entire world, not the people necessarily, but their military and the government of Israel. A lot of the people are very good people that are very similar to Americans, have been lied to, have been distorted and told this lie of who they are. But in reality, they wouldn't support what their government really stands for, and they wouldn't support the true what this thing that they're supporting masked by a false sense of patriotism that exists. They wouldn't support it, but they do because they are living a lie, and they're not the men who they say that they believe themselves to be. But the military they commit war crimes on the level the Nazis did in World War II. Their government are nefarious and just as maybe even more demented than Adolf Hitler when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu himself. He claims that Israel and the people that claim themselves to be the Israelis or the Israelites, the descendants of the Israelites, they are the Israelis today, he claims that they've been there the whole time. But his own father, I'll remind you, Benjamin Milyansky, his own father is from Hungary. So he knows he's telling a lie. Every time he says it, the man has more creepy features than Adolf Hitler. At least Adolf Hitler seems like a normal human being. If you can't just look in the eyes of Benjamin Netanyahu and can't tell that this man is a season of evil. There is no soul behind his eyes, is what it appears. There is a soul behind his eyes, and it's very dark and twisted. Benjamin Netanyahu, at this point, will be remembered as one of the biggest villains of the 21st century. The entire last 20 years of his political career has been twisted. The rhetoric inside the United States with our own politicians buying them out, coming over here and telling us for the last 25 years that Iran is close to building the nuclear bomb. But how about their illegal nuclear weapon supply, Benjamin? How about your nuclear weapon supply, Benjamin? That you still are kind of sketchy about. You built it 50-something years ago, and you continue to lie about it to this day, about the true capabilities. They have over 400, I believe it's over 400 nuclear weapons belong to Israel. And that means at any moment they could push the button and practically blow up the planet. And with these people's mindsets, if you saw the words, you would realize the threat this is to humanity in general. Because these people are sociopaths at the top of this Israeli government. Psychopaths that are not very scared to push the button. You know, people talk about how many nuclear weapons Russia has, for example, which Russia, I believe, has the biggest nuclear weapons stockpile in the world. But they have a sane leader behind those nuclear weapons that is not a religious fundamentalist and is not a racial supremacist. But Israel, that man that has to control the nuclear weapons of Israel, is definitely both of those things. That, with Americans, if you want a threat in the Middle East to be scared about, I just gave you one. Now, realize this, though, is that there's a lot more of us than them. There's a lot more Americans, a lot more good-hearted people than there are these psychopaths. Because even though there's only 6 million Israelis, there's even less that actually supports the regime in Israel. So, you could just remain optimistic on that part, that they will be defeated because the odds in the numbers say so. But we need to prioritize who are we going against? And the Israelis support Islamic terrorism. Look what they support in Syria against Bashar al-Assad, who they support these Syrian rebels and bring them back to their hospitals, bring them back to Tel Aviv to recuperate in Israel. But these men are known Islamic terrorists, and Israel has used Islamic terrorism to destabilize countries that are anti-Zionist. It's a known fact. So now that you see this, you see the bigger picture. Hopefully, this might be the first time you really get it, and how serious I'm talking right now. I really laid it out there. And I told all this stuff about Israel without even saying a word who it was. Who would it sound like I described? It sounded like I may have described the Nazis, but who I described was Zionist Israel. Anyways, guys, I'm heading over here to the chat for a sec and see what's going on in the chat, since we're about 30 minutes in the show. But let's see. I'm just trying to see what I see. Somebody talk about the button. The chat room is always so random with what's going on. People are saying I'm calling out the Mayans, apparently. The Mayans don't even exist anymore. Just saying about that. But it's getting hot in the chat room. See, I was like, what the hell is a home run? Or just read the chat room. This is why I can't really read the chat room talk, but talk about this what today on July 3rd, the day before July 4th, we need to tomorrow to use this as an opportunity. A lot of you guys are going to be at your family barbecues. You're going to have your cousins and your uncles and I don't know, anybody, a lot of your loved ones around. A lot of your loved ones are probably right into the trap. They are normal labor units. Future will be just future debt slaves when all this plan really comes together. And this is your chance. I gave you your chance to spread the information that I disseminated to you on this show about Israel. Lay out the facts about the nuclear weapons program. Lay out the facts. This is your chance to talk about what Israel, the true Middle Eastern threat to the American people and the American way of life. And while the media keeps fixating on this Pulse nightclub shooting, or what's the new one that they're fixating on? They're fixating, I don't know what they're fixating on right now. I can't stand the mainstream media at this point. And who does, and you can tell them who owns the mainstream media. I'll give you a hint. Who the mainstream media is owned by. And it said most of the mainstream media has connections right back to that Middle Eastern country I was talking about. And on July 4th, it will resonate and it will stick and it will reverberate more with your family members when you actually bring this up, and they'll remember about it. Now they'll know. It just break the illusion of this false patriotism that they put on us and turn them into real patriots, because we have a lot of false patriots in this country just because they believe that driving a big truck and screaming America makes them a patriot. Well, they're buying tons of that fuel, and you want to know how that fuel was gone? By American lives dying over there in those Middle Eastern wars. So that's very patriotic of you. I'm not saying that all oil is anti-American. What I'm saying definitely is that there's a major fallacy in that idea of your big truck equals that you're a patriot, that you guzzle tons of gas. That must make you, oh yeah, I'm going to support the benefits of all these Americans dying over there in the Middle East. And over there in Iraq and Syria right now we have another war open up in Syria. Warn about what's happening in Syria. That war in Syria's ally was Iran. Once Iran will have to protect their ally Syria from the Zionists in the United States if war breaks out in Syria. I mean, real war, as in total war, World War II, fucking carpet bombings by the United States, full scale, 100,000 plus soldiers on the grounds of Syria. That's when it will be. That's when the war really breaks out. I know. Oh yeah, I was bringing up another point because the Mayan civilization no longer exists. Like, I just wanted to fix that up because Mayans could be listening to the show, and don't want to offend them because they have nothing. There's nothing they did to actually for me to offend them or anything that really their people done at all. Anyways, make it clear, I don't love all peoples, but when we're talking about these few sociopaths and these few psychopaths, when we're talking about that control the Zionist government and the Zionist supporters, all these Zionist think tanks that are there, and also the people inside of Israel, they're hardcore Zionists that watch the Palestinians be bombed from hills like the movie. I mean, you could and other stuff like this. These awful men that treat Palestinians like they're worse than animals. These men in Israel, these people inside of Israel, a lot of them are demented. They are officially suffer from a mental illness. They are sociopaths and psychopaths. This is everything that pretty much your TV has told you that Muslims are. But this is the Zionists. There are Muslims that are Islamic extremists. There are Muslims in Saudi Arabia, such as that are in the Saudi monarchy, that do horrible human rights abuses. But let me remind you, who controls these people? The United States and Zionist Israel. So, again, another narrative busted. The mainstream media is complete garbage today at this point. And the mainstream media is going to turn tomorrow into something it's not. It wasn't intended to be a day of supporting tyranny and supporting our tyrannical allies. It was supposed to be a day when we supported, as Thomas Jefferson later said, that sometimes the tree of liberty needs to be refreshed by the blood of tyrants. That's what it's really supposed to be about, and that's why we shoot at the fireworks. Is that's us shooting, firing bombs at the tyrants, and actually rebelling. And when we fought against the tyrants during the British Revolution, it's not us supporting genocide against Muslims. It's not us supporting, and what I talk about is America of today supporting fascist regimes. That's the misconceptions that need to be talked about. And tomorrow you got your chance, July 4th. Use this today as a holiday of spreading knowledge. And for people that got family members, just realize that they will be victims of whatever the plans, when these plans really come together, which we might be 1 or 2 years away from the total martial law and everything coming together, that they will be victims of that with no knowledge. How about you give them the knowledge and you at least give them an option of what they can do? And it looks like we got the chat room getting. The chat room is really good right now. I mean, we're getting tons of we're getting quite a bit of stuff coming in the chat room right now. But I was trying to. It's funny. It's like I'm trying to search back and see what comments I had right there, or what comments were coming in. We had some off-topic comments coming in. It's all weird. Trying to go back to around. Yeah, I saw what recent comments. Seemed like it was just generally one person was messaging for a while, and then around 9:15 we got more people messaging. Anyways, I'm just going back. Anyways, let me get back on topic. Because after I went on it seems like every show I go on a rant about the Zionists in Israel at some point. And definitely warranted. And, I at this point, I hope people realize that it hasn't went without. There has been controversy by me talking about Israel in the past. And of course, you know what I have to say to that. Fuck you guys if you don't care. If you care. Let me rephrase this altogether. If you think that I care about what you have to think, and that you think that I'm whatever racist, I'm a bigot or whatever for talking about Israel, then fuck you. It's like fuck you completely. I mean, I know I had one person that was confronting me about that, and it was a big time Zionist Israeli supporter, and I just simply disregarded it, made to a little bit of my own hazard. Who knows what kind of, especially with somebody that has a little bit more. I don't know what kind of influence he has on other people. And I think we have to that's one thing we have to keep in mind, but we also have to keep in mind, we have to stay vigilant, but we also have to just move past it. And realize on the internet that whenever we get into an argument on the internet about Israel, that there's a good chance you're talking to a troll, because they spend tons of money, the Israelis, in order to whitewash and propagandize the internet. I mean, you see all these people that are talking shit about Muslims and talking shit about Iran and Syria on the internet. You go to like RT and Press TV, and there's always those guys. A lot of those guys are definitely shills paid by the Zionists, because you really you could tell that's not organic, especially when they have talking lines. You could tell that the originations. I just said original twice. The originations of these stuff that they're saying the internet is loaded with Israeli trolls. Let me remind you that again, and also with our own government trolls, the United States government trolls. The NSA has a lot of connections, I believe, back to Israel. So it's no surprise. I mean, I think Israel is somewhat of a leader on internet propaganda and control the internet. But we just need to move past that, and we need to realize that we need to let people know that these trolls exist, and that these people don't actually. There's not as many people that think this way as it seems to be, that are such in favor of the Zionist state. In reality, these people are paid, and we also need to keep that in mind and put that that's another important fact that we need to remind people of, because that's the information war right there that's being fought on the internet. And more, it seems that we're starting to win the information war, the alternative media, but then you have these people trying to suck them back in to the trap that I was talking about. And it kind of reminds me that also we have these actors, because somebody in the chat mentioned the name. We have that spread, by being the cool guy or whatever, of their political opinions seem to have more weight when they're said. And for example, what comes to mind is a piece of shit, Seth Rogen, who I used to be, unfortunately, when I didn't realize that Seth Rogen, I should have seen it. The guy is a fucking Zionist piece of shit that has made clear his hatred pretty much for Christians and pushing Zionist thoughts on people, mostly on gullible stoners that Seth Rogen appeals to. And they have a person for everybody. It doesn't seem like that Hollywood has a person to spread and propagandize to every sector of the population to get these few political thoughts that they deem important into the minds of the people, so they can have everybody brainwashed. They don't want them thinking too much into politics, but they just want the few things that they regurgitate being said. Seth Rogen is one that comes to mind, and is a Zionist actor, pusher of Zionist propaganda to the youth. Also, who comes to mind is also comes to mind when it comes to an older piece of shit than Hollywood that was a top Zionist, was Woody Allen, of course, and what he got away with. And then you see the people that Hollywood, I think, hates, and the establishment of Hollywood hates, and they pushed him out for different reasons. I think, for example, Mel Gibson and possibly Charlie Sheen. What the true reason of all these scandals that a lot of actors do, and it doesn't become much of a big deal because they're not these two guys, is because they talked, and it wasn't in favor of them. And what the okay, I got distracted by this one thing. Tonight's episode of Voice of Rebellion Radio brought to you by Sabra brand hummus and soda. Hell fucking no. If you take a sponsorship from SodaStream, those people, SodaStream also uses their use Israeli settlement labor, and then they push their product with what was it, Sophia Johansson, whatever her name is, which isn't even the hottest chick I've ever seen. Everybody acts like she's so fucking hot. I mean, I'll just be going 100% frank right here. That Sophia Johansson, I mean, she took the Zionist money, maybe even the Zionist dick. I don't know. But Sophia Johansson, I mean, come on. There's definitely hotter chicks than her. I mean, come on, her titties ain't even that big. I mean, what is that? Come on, be 100% frank about that. And it's like, what? Because she got it because the media told you she was hot. Is that the deal? Is that the deal now with A lot of that's again that's how the media works. That they tell everything. They tell what to think, what chicks are hot, what products to buy. You buy a damn SodaStream because we told you Sophia Johansson's hot, and now she's pushing that product on you. So now you are gonna go buy the Israeli fucking soda. Well, you make your own soda. You make your own soda from the from the labor of these poor slaves on the Israeli settlements. But that's the media, again, like I said, via Operation Mockingbird, via a few other projects by the CIA, via Mossad, and a few other agencies, it became the thing it is, which is a propaganda machine pushing pro-Israeli, pushing pro-United States government propaganda at you, and you don't even realize it. But let's look at one other thing. Is that the fact is that also on July 4th, why does it seem like that July 4th became it became 100% distanced from what it used to. It's a day we don't think about anything. We think about partying and getting drunk on July 4th. When again, this should be the day that we do go one step closer to taking back our fucking country. And like that rant I went on, we describe about it, instead of screaming stuff about the Muslims and screaming America, tell them about the real Middle Eastern threat. I would do that. Let's all try to do that tomorrow. We're all push a little bit about truth. So tell everybody a little bit of truth about that, about the Israelis, about the Zionists. And let's look at a little bit deeper at their think tanks that they have. Is that who's actually pushed this? People like Robert Kagan was one of the people that orchestrated the fear and hatred after 9/11. And what if anybody even brings up tomorrow? And of course, people are gonna say that we're fighting this war for 9/11 or whatever. Almost 15 years later, the same narrative is being pushed. Yeah, it's almost been 15 fucking years. If you hear that rhetoric, start talking about them, about dancing Israelis, which a lot of people in the alternative media won't even talk about. Is that I've already talked enough about the literal physics and the science standpoint, how it's literally physically impossible. What about these people that are literally high-fiving each other and celebrating as there's a van? They have a van of with camera equipment, pretty much brought out the movie crew for to document this historic event, I believe was in their own quotes. And they they're all celebrating. It seems like they're anticipating this event. And then you have another one, the vans, had the freaking 9/11 event actually happen. There's the mural van. Look up the mural van. It's literally by Urban Moving Systems, which is an Israeli-owned company, was going around New York City with the mural of the Twin Towers being hit by a plane. We have another plane another van that's going across the George Washington Bridge. And on that van, or inside the van, there was explosives. And the Israelis arrested there. 60 Israelis were arrested on 9/11. And they were all released 2 days later. So what does that sound like? Sounds like an intelligence briefing. Because if these men, if we actually had a fair justice system, these men would have had their trial. And they would have been put in jail and executed probably, or for life, sat in prison for what they did, because we know that they definitely had a major part in the terrorist attack. And a few cavemen practically, with very little technology, surpassed the most sophisticated intelligence system in the world and hit the Twin Towers. You got to be kidding me. And they attacked the Pentagon as well. It was literally a hole that's in the Pentagon. That's the only person that crawled out of there said there's no debris of a plane. Where's the fucking suitcases? Where's all these people that were on these planes? They never found them. They didn't find a screw in that hole that looks like literally a ditch that was dug with smoke coming out of it. I mean, I saw more realistic special effects at Universal Studios compared to what they were trying to show us at Shanksville with a plane crash. You see plane crashes on the real news when you look at the alternative media and you look at RT or whatever. You see a plane crash out in the middle of nowhere out of bumfuck China or whatever, and you see a plane crash. It's gruesome. It looks a lot different than what that hole. Planes don't vaporize. Simple as that. They don't vaporize to where there's no physical evidence of the plane crashing. But they're telling us at Shanksville that's what happened. That it turned into a hole in the ground. This ain't the Looney Tunes, folks. Apparently, that's what people believe. The cartoon logic's real. The things actually literally vaporize. That's only a term. Stuff doesn't literally turn into vapor when it hits the ground at 500 miles an hour. There's going to be tons of debris. There's going to be gore. There's going to be limbs miles away and shit. There's going to be screws found in yards all throughout that city. There'll be a big piece of the debris there, big piece of debris there. The debris would be so scattered by the explosion once that plane hit the ground. And you're going to tell me that it just vaporized. We've had some plane crashes here in Florida, and there was that one with the Alligator Alley. The thing went into took a very big hit right into the swamp, and they found tons of that plane. This thing, there was an actual attempt to save it too. I mean, there was no attempt to save that plane that crashed into the Alps in Germany when that nut of a pilot decided that he just wanted to end it with all the people on board. That there was still plane. He intentionally crashed that thing. Or these many different plane crashes happen over the years. What about there's been some ones over there in Russia I've seen was plane practically totally intact, but everyone practically burned up or got killed on the impact. But you're going to tell me that Shanksville, laws of physics stopped working. And we're only like 2 months from the 15th anniversary, and people still put their retarded narratives of mainstream media and just regurgitate right back at you whenever the 9/11 subject's brought about. But they don't know anything about the dancing Israelis, the 60 Israelis arrested. What about urban movement systems? What about the Zim shipping company decides, we're just going to cancel our lease 1 week before one of the biggest historic events in the United States history? We just decided that after 30 years, we're tired of having our lease at the World Trade Center. What about fucking Larry Silverstein, who he decides a few months, I decided I might need terrorism put on that shirt. And he got a new insurance policy with terrorism on it. Then he got almost $5 fucking billion off the deaths of 3,000 Americans. Goldman Sachs apparently owns Voice of Rebellion Radio right now. What's all these fake sponsorships of Voice of Rebellion Radio? This portion is brought to you by Goldman Sachs. Oh my God, that's Otto von Bolschwing got me laughing with the fake sponsorships. But in all reality, though, yeah, the dancing Israelis, it's almost as bad as that dancing guy at the Orlando event after they let that guy down that's supposedly injured, carrying him the wrong way, and the guy starts dancing afterwards. What are we going to call that guy? Maybe he's another dancing Israeli. Who knows? I don't know. It's one of those shows, isn't it, where the whole thing will literally be about mainly will be about Israel. And if anybody's, it's I have a feeling that if talk about like the ADL and those other groups, if they ever want to deem me to be some kind of extremist or whatever, they're just going to like put like a whole this show right here and show this whole rant and just like take out the most parts where I talk about the dancing Israelis and stuff like that. No, I have too much truth there. They're just gonna talk about they're just gonna cut it out where I'm just like say fucking Israelis are evil. They are just like Jews. It's just like they turn all the stuff into stuff I didn't really say and just like make sense as it make me sound to be like Hitler or some shit on the ADL website. I don't know how the ADL profiles work or what they exactly you have to do to actually get deemed. I guess somebody you have to fall into the attention of somebody. Because I interviewed somebody that the ADL, I believe, I've interviewed somebody the ADL is considered a, like a hateful person. Payday Monsanto was considered that. He's on the ADL watch list of some kind. And talk about another one, the Southern Poverty Law Center, deemed Tom Larkova, who I interviewed back in June, to be a threat, a right-wing extremist or whatever. But well, what if they bring back? They'll bring back just to make me sound like crazy or something like that. They'll bring back to the point where I'm talking about Sophia Johansson not sounding or not looking that hot to me. But all reality though, it's like, damn, come on. It's like, I don't know. When it comes, it's like these celebrities. I don't get that. What's even? I'm lost when what celebrities are considered to be like goddesses nowadays. I mean, like Sophia Johansson, tits ain't even that big and her ass ain't even that nice. Come on. What are those tits? The C cups? No, I'm kidding. But the tits aren't even that nice. And that's my point on that. I think Schwing should be a guest on Chris J's show. I think he's already been on. I have a feeling he's been on the show before as somebody. I think that because they have all these pseudonyms on the UCY chat. So everybody kind of hides behind a different name. I just I just put like Chris J VOR because I don't have an actual account. I don't really make time to actually make an account on Otto. Yeah, I think exactly now I know who Otto is. Otto is a little bit more closer to home. He's not over there in Germany. I wonder what I think he's over there in he's by Dallas in the Berlin district of Germany. Next week's Voice for Rebellion will be a guest hosted by who's Joy Behar. I know that's one of the Zionist senators. And I know, of course, who Senator Al Franken is. God, that guy's so annoying. You have all these Zionist hacks that are just insufferable, horrible, terrible to listen to. They are so annoying. They spit out such horrid lies. And they continued on with the facts don't matter at all. And then they literally tell you the complete opposite of what actually the Israelis are all about when it comes to everything. There are a few of them. I mean, like Dianne Feinstein's got to be the worst. And you see these people pushing gun control. That is one thing that I agree with. Some of those other people that be screaming America tomorrow are for gun rights. And of course, I'm for gun rights. And not just a little bit, like I'm only for whatever this is this gun. I'm for pretty much if you can access your way to get a minigun, like what they put up there on a Apache helicopter or what they put on the drones. If you can find a way to access that, a good country, you should be able to get that. I mean, I think it really should be able to get whatever guns you want because the government has practically every kind of gun you can imagine. So we need to be able to match their firepower. Even if it was a good government that was actually in the interest of the people, they shouldn't be scared when the people are ready to match their firepower in whatever future event. That's what the Second Amendment's about. It's not for you to hunt fucking ducks. I mean, that's a bonus, but it's definitely not the main purpose of it. It's definitely not about it's definitely not purely just for whatever to protect yourself from only protect yourself from a home invader. Is much bigger than that. It's protect yourself from a government home invader, the government fucking breaking into your home. I've triggered Otto von Bolschwing. So I guess maybe that's the gun talk. I don't know. It's a pretty funny chat we got going on here. If anybody that's listening in doesn't know about the chat, head over to UCY chat. Literally just type it into Google and it comes up as the first result. Go to UCY radio and just go over on the menu and it takes you right to the UCY chat. But seriously, also people talk about how, we didn't have these kind of guns back in 1776. Well, there was the Puckle gun in 1718. That thing was pretty intense and had some pretty good firepower, and that was definitely in the minds of that was definitely known at the time of the Second Amendment. So that argument is useless. Also, I mean, if you're using these arguments, you're probably falling right into the moms demand action bullshit crowd that's pushing the gun control. And you look at most of these people that are pushing gun control. Again, a lot of these people are Zionists. And you could tell there's something weird going on because Ted Nugent, by accident, probably just out of this pure gullibility, and I don't think he actually knows much about the Israeli power circle, but he posted a picture of these 12 Zionist legislators, these Zionist senators that want to take away your guns, and people said he was anti-Semitic. He probably didn't even know what he did. But by accident, he all of a sudden became on the list of people that are not liked by these Zionist power groups. Amosexual. That's. I think I've literally seen like they had gun-controlled nuts actually use that term to discredit a lot of the people that are pro-Second Amendment amosexuals, which I know a lot of these people supposed to believe they could have whatever fucking sexual orientation you want. Isn't that what they'll say down the other end? So I mean, if that's what your thing is ammo, just go ahead. I guess those people really would enjoy a Guns and Ammo magazine, wouldn't they? That's what they keep in their nightstand. That's what they stole from their dads, brought to school and showed it with their other like-minded friends. But they got another term with the. They're just bringing up this at this point. This is just like those groups on Facebook that just make the random memes. That's what it feels like when we ever try to quote what's going on over here. But oh shit, it is already 10:07, and we're already through about halfway through the show. Actually, more than halfway through the show, and when it comes to freedom that we're supposed to have on 4th of July and on the in the United States, we'll just break it down. What kind of freedoms do you actually have? We, as Americans now, I mean, look at a 4th of July. This is what you're gonna be told you can't do. Is that, or what you're gonna be told you can't do. You can't drink in the park. You won't be able to bring your barbecue to the park. You won't be able to be there past 7 p.m. You won't be able to bring your dog. You won't be able to shoot any fireworks off. You won't be able to bring your guns. That's the irony of 4th of July in just a few words right there. Is that it's a day we celebrate freedom that we don't have. And then if you are driving, you're going to be probably stopped at a police checkpoint where they may forcibly take blood from you. That's something from a dystopian novel rather than a country that's free. And why go to the somebody mentioned why go to the park then? That's true. You could have all this shit in your own backyard and actually have a fun time. But people, it's here. It's like we don't go to the park in Florida. We usually go to the beach as the main thing. That's where we have a lot of these 4th of July celebrations. But it has a whole lot of the similar rules. Plus, like you're not allowed to drink like ever on the beach here. So the rules are absolutely ridiculous that are enforced on 4th of July and are just the epitome of what the United States has turned into. It's the nanny state, in effect. And a good 4th of July celebration. You know what? Here's how it should be on Florida Beach. You have the fireworks going off, got the beers out. You can bring your Fido or whatever the hell you named your dog, Max. My dog's got a human name that we named it from a TV show about some guy that dresses up in a dog suit. Doesn't sound as bad as it sounds. Kind of. I mean, the dog on there smokes pot and is like it has an Australian accent, but that's beside the point. You could do whatever the hell, bring all your guns. Like I said, this is a truly free country. You could have a minigun on your wall. You could have your minigun on the back of your Chevy pickup. Don't bring your Toyota shit though. This is America. And then you're gonna have and then the top it all off. Chicks are walking down the beach, American flag songs all day long. There, and you can shoot all the own your fireworks you want. Bam. Okay, I don't even know what bullshit Otto von Bolschwing's talk about this point, but he's what the hell? Never mind. I just forget that. Oh yeah. And if you want to do anything though, you have to have of any kind. It seems you have to get a permit. You know, if you want to sell anything, if you want to sell drinks at the park for your 4th of July, you can't do that because then the police will come by and ask for your permit. All these rules is the exact thing that freedom's supposed to prevent us from. That's why we have freedom, so they can't do this shit to us. But we don't have freedom. Talk about another big American thing. Good thing we don't have the Super Bowl on July 4th, which now that probably is that idea that I just gave to them. That's what's going to happen. Breaking news: the Super Bowl will not be played no longer in February. No, they'll just have a 5-month break from the conference finals all the way to the fucking Super Bowl. They'll put on July 4th. On July 4th, there'll be Hulk Hogan will come out there and play. I want to be a real American. Every fucking halftime show. There won't be no more guests. Oh yeah, there'll be guests. There'll be Seth Rogen and Amy Schumer will be out there, and also, what else can we make this more American? There'll be a big fireworks display where they use the. I don't want to go. I gruesome idea of what would probably be done at this horrific, super patriotic display, but I don't know. Screw that. But yeah, going on to the next topic, and also people say don't watch the chat room, but it's fun. This is what I'm going to do. You know what? I got freedom, so go do something else. Don't bother me. But I'm going to move on to actually some stuff that actually goes on with some breakdown of all this that's going on in it. Talk about the difference between patriots and fascists, which that's what these people essentially are. That these false patriots that are talking about patriotism in order to justify the genocide of Muslims over there in the Middle East. These people that want to use patriotism, you got these think tanks that say, you got these think tanks like Project for a New American Century, again, the Hagans again, I'm going to bring up, because they just have those crazy ideas. They wanted to send unemployed people to they wanted to send unemployed people to a joint stock company where they use them for slave labor. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the plan for it. It was pretty much like the FEMA camp idea, but this is all the way back in 2000. That's what the Project for a New American Century was, is how they're going to turn the 21st century, or by the end of the 21st century, America would be an absolute living hell for anyone that's not in the ultra elite club, which the ultra elite club, just a few people. We have 400 people control 80% of the country's wealth. Break that down. 319,699,600 people have the other 99% of the wealth. The other 999% of the wealth. This country as well, a lot of these people in the top 400 don't have any real connection to the United States. These people are from Europe. These people are from Israel. These people are from other countries, and they use American labor, take all the fruits of their labor, then tax them for the little bit of financial compensation they gave back to them. So they, like I said, give nothing and get everything. Give nothing, get everything. That's how the ultra elite club at the top of the United States works. And this is what people root for. People are right now this summer that's heating up the political race between Trump and Clinton. These two terrible options that are both Zionist sellouts, and at one time one financed the other. Trump, the Clinton had her husband as president before. Trump was a buddy of the Clintons for many years, and Trump, he pretends to be he's the ultimately he's the villain, and they're going to make Clinton to be the hero when she is rigged to win the election. You had all these people that believed in this one candidate, Bernie. It was ultimately just a man who supported the continuation of aggression by the United States government on the Middle East and around the world, in Asia and many other different places. But people believed him to be some kind of populist hero that would save America with his social programs that he didn't even say how he paid for them, because he still wanted to keep the giant military. And look at our military. We spend more on our military, and that's us, the American taxpayers, spending the money, than the next 20, or no, it's like that, at the very low estimate, the next 26 countries are combined. Some people, at one point, I believe, it was every single country on the planet combined, which there's a lot of countries that don't spend anything or spend very little on military, so that you can see how it's possible. And there's a few other countries that actually spend something on military, but it's nothing compared to what the United States spends. We dwarf every other single military in spending. Now, in results, it's not quite the same. They're definitely spending for, for example, a lot of analysts predict that Russia could beat the United States military in war, even though they spend so much less money compared to the United States. But that's where all your taxpayer money that some people actually are, I'm glad our taxes go to roads so I can get my roads. That's where it's going to roads for tanks to roll on over there in Iraq or in Afghanistan or in Syria. That's what it's really going to. Sorry, I saw kind of a picture of something in the chat that was pretty funny, but the taxes, like I said, it go to what ultimately is the Federal Reserve, and they do the same thing over there in England. That's how it's been for years since the Rothschilds took over their country. The Rothschilds control most of the Western world, is what should be understood. The Rothschilds, people paint them out to be like they're just some harmless, super rich family. No, these people control most of the central banking around the planet. Most people think of it just a conspiracy. Most people, they think that the fact that they funded the Nazis, and now that they fund the United States, they funded the creation of Zionist Israel, and now they funded the creation of the United States military war machine. These people are the ones that start wars, and because they make the money off the wars, and then they take over the country. Their plan, they're trying to take over the central banking of the planet. So any country that doesn't subscribe to the Rothschilds' central banking plan, they invade, they plunder, they pillage, they murder, they burn. The Rothschilds have been at the status of power for hundreds of years, and they've been around in prominence for 500 years at least. And it's a made-up name, the Rothschilds. It means red shield. It's red shield bankers. That they control your currency, they control your government, they control your politicians, And ultimately, talk about how Congress or the president has too much power is pointless because they're all owned by those guys. And then there's also Netanyahu and the Israeli government involved. But those guys are ultimately just owned by the Rothschilds. I mean, you look at who did the Balfour Declaration, who did Britain write it to? He wrote it to the Rothschilds. Where is the Israeli Supreme Court on? Rothschild Boulevard. Who built the Knesset? One of the Rothschilds. So, the Rothschilds are very clearly the most powerful family. If you could designate a family as the most powerful family on the planet, it's the Rothschilds. And most people seem to not even know who they are. Look at the Clintons. They met with the Rothschilds. You can almost bet that Hillary Clinton is a sure bet to win the election. And that probably decided at the Bilderberg Committee, but it was in the plans for many, many years that they put Hillary Clinton. Now, who did she promise to bomb Iran back in 2007? She promised that Israel or the Israeli lobbyers at the AIPAC meeting in 2007 when she was looking to win the 2008 election. But they had a little bit different plan. They would put Barack Obama first. And then that would ease the way for Hillary Clinton to become president. Hillary Clinton has been for a long time a major person that have kept kind of in the background for this very position. The point of all this is that we claim that we're free. We claim Americans, these patriots, these people that have been illusioned into believing the false paradigm of patriotism. They believe that they're free. They believe that their government is democratic, but they don't even know why it's not democratic and who truly owns it. You don't see any mainstream media bringing up their name ever. A lot of the alternative media seems to stray away from it now. You look at Alex Jones; he won't even talk about it. He has Paul Joseph Watson just screaming about Muslims and screaming about the immigration policies or whatnot. And because he has that British accent, for some reason, he gets a lot of gullible Americans into believing him. He's worse than the vacuum salesman guy. You know, the guy that sells the ice and vacuums on TV, and because he has the British accent, he can sell like a complete piece of shit that he tells you need because of this or whatever thing that's not a problem. They tells you the problem. Paul Joseph Watson, he just distracts you. And in fact, he's actually downplayed the Israeli role and stuff. And he's done the opposite of what some of the alternative media should be doing, done what the mainstream media does. He tries to make it seem like the Israelis are a non-player. I think he's even made the Israelis seem to be like the good guys, you know, because you see who Paul Joseph Watson who works for InfoWars and Alex Jones, what is he doing right now? He's just sucking on Trump's dick. He's became such a Trump fanboy, and who's Trump ultimately bowed down to? The Rothschilds in Israel, who at the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, that's what he did, just lied and lied and lied. Get that Israeli support. That's the MO of people like Alex Jones, is that they're a pressure valve. They make sure that no real activism is fermented. They're the shills in the alternative media. Alex Jones, I call him out because, you know, at the same time, because right now, after these Orlando events, that he's turned into saying just to push his own media. It's infuriating to see the way that some of the alternative medias went, and they won't even call them out. They won't say Israel. I've seen Alex Jones. Alex Jones will actually almost have a meltdown probably if you brought up the Dance Israelis. I want to see somebody actually do that. Because Payday Monsanto called into Alex Jones one time, and he went a little bit far. I just want to see without even saying word Jew once, just saying Israelis. Because, that then you start to cross the line, you're not going to get anybody on the mainstream. If you have to say just Israel, don't mention a group of people. Anyways, it's not that the entire group of people is responsible. That's what you're starting to insinuate. No. Tell the facts, how they are, and see what Alex Jones will do. He'll probably hang up on you and make some point and go on some rant about how he loves everybody when he calls Mexicans this and this and this. He doesn't love everybody. He loves his paycheck that he gets, and he loves that the ADL lets him stay on the air rather than kick him off, and that the FCC or nobody touches him. Do you really think that Alex Jones is getting followed around by the military? That's what he's claimed. That's one of the funniest stories that he's told. If he was actually at that point where he's getting followed by the military, he would not be on the air. They'll censor you way before they start doing stuff like that. Alex Jones, he probably shoots on his range with some high-level media people. He might even have for a good old Texan steak. Definitely wasn't a Texan bacon. Oh, okay, just track from that. A good old Texan steak with one of those people from good old, what you might say, the chosen people over there from Israel. And I'm trying to stay away from chat, but who's Bob Tuskin? I don't know. I actually do not know who Bob Tuskin is. But the InfoWars, even Mark Dice seems to be going down that route. It's just purely an anti-Muslim channel. And when has he brought up Israel? It hasn't been too many times he brought it up. Mark Dice just seems to yell at people for falling into the tricks of what the media tells them to be, or they fall into the consumerist culture. That's what Mark Dice seems to yell at them about. Mark Dice, to me, just comes off as a douchey, rich white guy who just he thinks he's better than everybody, and likes to, he yells at the people at Walmart Black Friday and whatnot. It's ridiculous, the whole occasion of Black Friday, but he yells at the people that are outside participating in it. And I would like to see him actually, like an activist, actually finding where these people. Can't be too far from where some of these people live. Top celebrities. Because he's out there in California, in Southern California, or these CEOs of these companies. Find where they live, and you can stand out there with a megaphone and yell at their mansion or whatnot. That'd be more productive and more interesting to watch. I mean, Mark Dice is not quite as bad as the level of Alex Jones. Alex Jones gets tons of listeners. He's on FM radio in many different cities. I believe Alex Jones gets like over a million listeners or something like that. I mean, he gets like more listeners than some mainstream media shows, and ultimately, that's what he's became. His channels became just another part of the mainstream media. It's almost like, one day I could see Alex Jones join Fox News or something like that. But one more to be said is that Americans are asleep. The word sheeple and awake, I haven't used too much in a long time. I felt them to be too much a cliche of the people in the truther movement, but it seems like the only words that can be said And it's just that July 4th, that's when it really brings out the worst of some people with the false patriotism, the screaming America or whatnot. And they supported their own family even. They pushed sometimes into the military to die in war. They don't do stuff like, it's like if you were truly a patriot, wouldn't you boycott every company that moves American jobs overseas, which would be a ton of them. Everyone that outsourced would be boycotted. But no, probably the mainstream media would call everybody who did that racist or something like that. Well, that's probably what would happen. I could already see the narrative that announced whatever movement like that. But these people that call themselves to be patriots don't do stuff like that. And countries that have actually been successful, once they actually kicked out their puppet government belonging to the bankers, they had a very big component in order to actually continue what they started. And that was true patriotism. In like what happened in Yugoslavia when they finally did their project and built up, when Tito built his country up, he actually brought all those people together into a true patriotism. But it wasn't like Yugoslavia at the end, like what the United States is, all the politicians are bought out by another country, Israel. No, Yugoslavia also manufactured everything for their own people and sold a little bit to their overseas and to a few allies that they had. They purely focused on their own people for a short time, and they got very big results out of it. That's patriotism. That's patriotism, true patriotism at work. And the leader was one of them. He had fought in different wars for liberating Yugoslavia from the Nazis. He also didn't have any help from the Soviet Union. I wonder why. I wonder why the Soviet Union didn't want to help such a independent leader. He didn't fall into the Eastern Bloc. He also didn't fall into the United States bloc either. Yugoslavia was sovereign. That's because they had such a strong leader at the control of it all. But in the end, they fell victim to the United States, broke it up via war in 1999. The United States bombed it. Good old Bill Clinton decided to go in there with NATO and bomb it, like what they did to Gaddafi in 2011 when they bombed Libya. And Yugoslavia fell apart. They were already falling apart before that, but they fomented the division, the United States government. And Yugoslavia they were able to divide them up and start hating each other, like the media does with all this racial divide. They have us hating each other, and we'll never rise up and have a revolution. Divide and conquer. That's the strategy. We are not united. As Americans, how many of us even know our neighbors? How many of us even know truly anything about people we work with, the people that we see all the time? No, we don't have any sense of community. We don't have any sense of unified effort. We just have this individualist, everybody fights for themselves or die mentality. And it's destructive because all of us divided up in hating each other. They have us, you got the fermented division between white versus black, Muslim versus Christian, Republican versus Democrat. We'll not even realize that those people don't even realize that both parties are screwing each other, or screwing them. The division continues. Hispanic versus Asian. They've divided us up in all these little different groups to hate each other, and in the end, the government screws us all. That's another thing we need to get past, is that all this division and or we'll never have a revolution. And talk about patriotism and talk about what our founding fathers would have wanted. Our founding fathers were about everyone here as American. That there isn't all these different labels and hating each other, mainly, is that they weren't before that. That's why we had freedom of religion, freedom of expression, so you could say stuff, and it wasn't like that you could be against the government, and it would actually be, and that was your right as an American. Everybody could say what they wanted. Now we don't have freedom of expression. We have all this political correct bullshit. Somebody says 2 wrong words on Twitter, you're fired. You're fired from your job. Everybody in the neighborhood hates you. And anyways, if you're on Twitter, though, just get off that shit. There's no point in Twitter, in my opinion, because Twitter is just a place where athletes and celebrities pretend to say smart stuff in under 140 words and just talk about whatever stupid thing they're doing. I'm going to UK this weekend or whatnot, stuff that we shouldn't give a shit about, but people do give a shit about it, and they follow them. They got 3 million people following them on Twitter and shit like that. Twitter's stupid, in my opinion. It's even stupider than Facebook, and that's saying a lot because Facebook's at least giving me a platform to do my activism and be able to spread what I'm talking about, spread information on my radio show and whatnot, and actually put an actually insightful few paragraphs of shit. I could put whatever amount of information on there. Of course, all of Facebook gives it all up to the CIA and whatnot. I'm saying both social media in general is pretty stupid. It's like we don't even know who our neighbors are. How about that? When you're actually down at whatever fireworks show, your neighbor's there. You actually try to have a conversation with them. Actually try to find out who you see all the time, or whatever you see. There's people you see at the store every week, but you never say a word to them. Find out who these people are. Get a sense of community, actually, for once, because communities is not what the people that are at the top want. They want everybody for themselves, because when everybody for themselves divided, we fucking fall right into their trap. That's one more thing to focus on. And you see successful places where they've had successful changes, and it's because it's places where they had strong communities, strong sense of unity. But we're places where they but the whole social media thing, the whole looking at your phones and being a mindless zombie as you walk down the streets and look at whatever stupid app you downloaded, that's exactly where they want you. And you have this thing where you could pull up any information when you want about anything. And you look at cat pics, or look at the little stupid memes with those minion shit. Those memes with the minions on there, whatever. Like, they got a whole page up on Facebook. And that's what a bunch of people just share that shit all day. Well, I'm trying to put up my stuff, and what I get 2 likes for what I post, and I have like hundreds of truther friends, and I get 2 likes. What kind of math is that? And Twitter, I don't think it would go much better, because again, Twitter is just a stupid place for athletes and celebrities to post whatever. You see apparently every time that an athlete puts something stupid, or puts something what they consider not usually a lot of times the athletes just something stupid that they don't even realize that they crossed some line, and then they hound them for like 2 days. They put some apology, and then it's over, just to get some media spectacle going. I'm very sorry about saying that Mexicans are not very smart, and I didn't mean it like that. What I just said, I've never really seen many here playing on my team here in Kansas City. I don't know. That's what. So go, something like that. Go, something like that. That's what we're seeing so many of these controversies. What should be fucking controversial is the fact that George W. Bush is not in jail. That the Netanyahu can even come to the United States and give a stupid speech to Congress, and that they cheer at the end of it, of a foreign leader. They cheer of a foreign leader laying out all these policies that are destructive to the American people. Yet, Benjamin Netanyahu is alive. We should be fucking arresting him when he gets on stage. As soon as that should be what should be. That would be the glorious thing that would happen. Is that when the American militia comes up and arrests Benjamin Netanyahu, and then we throw him in a labor camp for life, work camp for life, whatever. Put him in like that. We'll put those ones in the deep south, and make them sit out there and bust rocks all day for the rest of his miserable life in 105-degree heat. That's what they used to do. That's what they used to do to, unfortunately, a lot of the people that were put to those were innocent men that didn't even commit crimes. Way back, they used to, like in the Mississippi and Alabama, they used to have those work camps. That's where we should reopen them and put politicians and bankers in them. It's just an idea. It is 10:41. Only an hour and 19 minutes left of July 3rd, and just 19 minutes left of this show here at the Voice of Rebellion Radio, UCY Radio. And just closing out, we'll talk about the difference between neoconservatives and the difference between fascists and patriots, and the supposed patriots, the really neoconservatives. And what the hell is it, a neoconservative? And that's what those people like George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, Barack Obama, all these different, Hillary Clinton, all these are ultimately just neoconservatives. They have these think tanks like Project for a New American Century and a few others that are just there, that they spread the Zionist propaganda. They spread and they just have these outlandish solutions, the quotation solutions of what should be done for whatever problem. And they are pretty much just the ultimate warmongering, war hawk, pro-Israel sect of American politics. I mean, neoliberal, neoconservative, it's really the same thing. And they have really pushed that America nationalism, supporting the America-Israel relation forever. I mean, you see these bumper stickers are absolutely disgusting. I mean, when you see, people complain about what kind of bumper sticker they see on people's car. That's the one that's most annoying to me, is when I see, "We must never abandon Jerusalem," and it's American and Israeli flag together. It's disgusting. Well, I haven't even seen anybody ever have like a Palestinian flag or whatever as a bumper sticker. I don't think I have seen it ever. And I would like to see reactions if I add a Palestinian bumper sticker or whatever, and go to work and see. I probably have my car fucking vandalized by the end of the day, especially with all these Zionists that live here in Florida. There's a ton of them. That's why I got confronted, because there's one of these grandkids that was just probably just saying whatever his grandfather told him to say, and I know would not go well, especially if I mix politics and work. Ultimately, I consider this this is different. This is a hobby / work at the same time. So I put in some work to make these shows actually decent. And it takes up all the Facebook time mainly, where I put a lot of the time into. So if the people that listen to UCY Radio regularly but haven't yet subscribed to me on Facebook, do that, because that's where I put a lot of stuff up there, a lot of information. Every day I'm on there. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. That's where a lot of that's mainly what I do in this radio show. We don't really get anything organized. It seems like here in St. Pete, and when we do have something organized, it's not quite worth going to. I mean, it just seems to be there's always some kind of bias or something like that. It just doesn't make it quite worth going to. We have those. We had, for example, it's like, of course, show my solidarity with Ferguson when the Ferguson cause police was because Michael Brown, he was killed unjustly by the police, but what it turned into ultimately, a lot of those people at these rallies are Hillary Clinton supporters and stuff. And so it's very irritating, and to go to it, I don't know about that. And that's the only thing we seem to be able to get organized in St. Pete, something like that. I was in overseas when they had the March Against Corruption. That's something I would actually went to. But I was overseas, and I think on that day I was actually in country Colombia. Like I was in Colombia, out in the countryside, pretty far away from any kind of major city. So it was definitely a contrast to what I'm usually in. But that town had more people than St. Pete, but it definitely didn't seem like a metropolis. Message from Tel Aviv for Voice of Rebellion Radio. Why is that? Is that? I can't tell if that looks like Erdogan for a second. Somebody's saying I should be. So somebody's saying that's something about a fishing trip. Actually, interesting fact. I know I'm just going off topic here, but I actually do not fish really here in Florida. Even though I live in like the fishing, everybody seems to fish around here, but it just never really seemed like something that fun for me. I mean, it seems like something I would do if I was living off the grid or something to survive. But fun? I don't know. I was like, maybe if I just can't see the appeal of it. If you had your own boat, even I think it'd be kind of sucky. And doing it off the pier, no, that sucks. Your own boat, that sucks too, because you're out in the heat. Unless you live in Florida, you don't realize how bad this heat is. But as what Alex Jones would be Alex Jones' comments right now, it would be something like oh yeah, the Muslims are causing their global warming's fake. The Muslims are actually causing the rise in temperatures. I got the documents right here to prove it. We got about 12 minutes left of the show. Going to mention a few other things, I guess, towards the end here. I'm kind of interested to see what the mainstream media, what's going to be the main thing that they're going to be talking about tomorrow. Probably I know they're going to be doing all the military stuff. I mean, talk about some guy that lost 3 of his limbs or whatever, but yet still runs practices track with his daughter that's on the track team or whatever. Some touchy-feely story like that. And these touchy-feely stories just keep people distracted. And it's absolutely disgusting to see. And then they don't talk about how this didn't need to happen to this guy. And this guy has his life completely altered for what? For oil and banking. And the opium. Let's not forget the opium. Nobody wants to talk about that. If you want to actually if you want to do something tomorrow important, show the pictures of these military men that are protecting opium fields and are supporting the trade of opium, which is a heroin. The heroin epidemic in this country is being fueled by the Afghanistan-Iraq wars. In Afghanistan, they had opium production was almost not a factor prior to the war, and then it exploded, and now we have this heroin epidemic where thousands of people are ODing, and the heroin's coming cheap from Afghanistan, and it's not a new thing. In Vietnam War, this happened too. In fact, during the Vietnam War, they used to, and this is very disgusting what they used to do, but this actually happened. They used to take they would say this is just a dead soldier coming home. No. It would actually be opium inside the casket. And that's how they smuggled it back to the United States. So in the Vietnam War, they smuggled opium, and the same thing with Afghanistan War, they smuggled opium. It's so lucrative, and that's why they do it. And that's why the United States government collaborates with drug cartels, because it's so lucrative. and they have tons of money to be made. It's a giant business, and that's what the U.S. military machine is a revenue generator. The United States military machine, all these people are dying for that, and it has more Americans dying over here on this end. It really just goes into the depopulation agenda. Let's not forget that the elites want to do that. It hasn't been mentioned on this show, but I'm about to mention a bunch of it here, is that the elites, they've made it clear many times on documents and facts, or it's facts that these documents show that the elite want to exterminate 90% of us. They have documents showing this. They've said in their memoirs and shit. They admit to it. It's right there on the Georgia Guidestones. Do you think this mysteriously popped up there? I believe that the Georgia Guidestones mysteriously popped up there. I guess that'll be the same day I believe that the Twin Towers mysteriously fell down into in free fall demolition. No explosives or whatever contributed to it. All right. The elites, the pharmaceutical opium epidemic is just one more thing they can do in order to fuel the depopulation. And you have people like Kissinger, Kissinger said that the best thing that the third world should be focusing on is depopulation. Talk about the depopulating Africa is one of the places that they really have been looking to depopulate. Why do you think the HIV epidemic hit them so hard? Because it was targeted to hit them. That was the point of it. And they had a lot of, millions of people died over there because of the HIV epidemic, which was not a spontaneous disease. What was the story? What was the story about Gallo? Something about that some scientist screwed a monkey or something like that, and then screwed some guy, and then that guy started spreading around, and it spread like wildfire. No, it was a constructed disease with a purpose. The United States government made a weaponized disease in the late 70s, called HIV, which also is AIDS, and then they patented it. There was a patent for HIV and AIDS. You can look it up. There's like a number, and when you look up the number, it comes up. Why would they patent something that's just a spontaneous disease like flu? Is like what they're telling us, but sexually transmitted, because it was a weaponized sexually transmitted disease that didn't exist before. You tell me that disease just pop up like that? No, we didn't have a problem with it for how many years before that? Ever. And all of a sudden, it shows up. The HIV virus is definitely weaponized, and it's just like, I think that they continue to make weaponized viruses and stuff that they unleash on the people. They don't really do too much. I think that the next one that they're going to unleash on they're going to unleash something probably soon that will probably cause some kind of panic, or I think it could happen. I think that's how they could bring in martial laws, that they say that whatever is going to kill us all unless we go into martial law. I mean, they tasted that with Ebola, but I don't think it's going to work because people don't quite panic like they expect. The Ebola virus only killed like 3 people in the United States. Ebola, but they had everybody pretty freaked out about it. So then then it dropped off. Remember that? Like within just a few days, it was off the news, and they were talking about why we should hate Muslims after they had there was a bombing in France, and they had another massacre in France, and then the hatred started to continue more about the anti-Muslim narrative. And you have these elites that they've been around a little while, and that's what they continue. They've spent their entire lives to doing these nefarious plans. I mean, these people are decrepit, walking around husks of people. These people are 95, 100 years old. Rothschilds and Kissinger. He was born in 1923, and he spent his entire life to misery of the third world. He was the one that ordered the sarin gas against the Vietnamese people. He's the one who ordered the coup against Allende and brought about Pinochet. He's the one that was a massive part of just the Vietnam War getting as ugly as it did. And you can just see all the stuff they said that he pretty much proudly admits to that he was responsible for. You have also like the Rothschilds. These people just seem to get older and older but never die. I believe they got some kind of medicine that we don't have. I mean, you have these like flushes and stuff like that. They can flush your system out, and you're pretty much clean. That's the reality, that we can't really afford this kind of stuff, but yet they can. While we die of simple diseases that you think would have been fixed a long time ago, and all at the same time they kill us with the GMO food because they control the food, and the GMO food is cancerous. You're going to tell me that food, they do test with the rats, lab rats, which are like the gold standard of scientific research when it comes to testing how we react to the human body. And these rats get tumors half the size of the rat. It's definitely toxic to people, and it leads to cancer. There's a reason why now we have, if you have a 1-2 chance of getting cancer sometime in your lifetime. I know it sounds scary, but it's reality. But I bet you that the people that are in that other half that don't, a lot of them are people that don't eat GMO food and have strict diets that they don't eat artificial foods or GMO foods or whatnot. I don't think it really has to do with, meats versus vegetables, as people claim that vegan diet will save you, because I think if you're still eating GMO vegetables, you're still screwed. I think it's purely natural versus organic is what it comes down to. Which a lot of people can't really afford the organic stuff. That's why people need to learn how to grow their own food again. Because that's one major thing. When they control the food, we're one step closer to the New World Order. So we need to be able to control our own food supply. Eventually, the goal is control our currency, control our own means of production, and then we're on the right path. And also control our own oil. That's a major one. Nationalization of oil. When we finally have the revolution, we must nationalize oil. Like a few countries in South America did, and they had some very good results of that. You can believe whatever horrific results came out of whatever country, because Alex Jones told you that's the situation is there. But I have eyes on the ground there, and they're telling me something different. I'm going to believe them before I believe the fat man and his British sex slave. Yeah, I said it, Paul Joseph Watson. But Alex Jones, probably you guys have had more than a steak dinner together. You probably invite him over for a weekend at his ranch, and did a little bit of horseback riding. That's probably what he would say, something like that. Alex Jones. But I don't know what I lost track of the conversation, the chat room. It's 10:58, so we're about to sign off here. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and I hope everyone.
One and no return, and nobody can stop it. Malcolm Little, when he knelt before Elijah Muhammad, the comet that killed the dinosaurs, changing the earth. They love to criticize, they always say I changed for the worse. Like prescription pills when you misusing them, nigga. The Templar Knights when they took Jerusalem, nigga, and figured out what was buried under Solomon's temple, Al-Aqsa. The name is not coincidental. I know too much, the government is trying to murder me. No coming back like cutting your wrists open vertically. How could the serpent be purposely put in charge of the country? Genetic engineered sickness spread amongst me. My people are so hungry that they attack without reason, like a fucking dog ripping off the hand that feeds them. Immortal technique is treason to the Patriot Act. So come and get me, motherfucker, cause I'm not coming back. This is the point from which I can never return, and if I back down